Well, good morning again, church, and we're going to be continuing on in Ephesians 6. We're picking up in verse 5, where it's no longer talking about the family relationship, but a very different one. So it starts off saying, "Slaves, obey your human masters with fear and trembling, in the sincerity of your heart, as you would Christ. Don't work only as while being watched, as people pleasers, but as slaves of Christ. Do God's will from your heart. Serve with a good attitude as to the Lord and not to people, knowing that whatever good each one does, slave or free, he will receive this back from the Lord. And masters, treat your slaves the same way, without threatening them, because you know that both their master and yours is in heaven, and there is no favoritism with him." So one thing I want to clarify about that, because it's obviously talking about slaves and masters, nowhere in that passage does it condone slavery at all. In fact, you could argue that last sentence that he says, to masters in particular, he says, "Masters, treat your slaves in the same way without threatening them, because you know that both their master and yours is in heaven, and there is no favoritism with him." In other words, God views you and the slave the same. So slavery is not being condoned here, but Paul's recognizing it is a reality in the world he's in. And so he's explaining how those relationships should look. Now you'll notice he talks to both the slave and the master, saying, essentially, be loving. It's not all that different than what he's been saying before. But in particular, there's something that I think is important for all of us to remember, and that's verse 6. "Don't work only while being watched as people pleasers, but as slaves of Christ. Do God's will from your heart." That's something that every single Christian should do all the time. Don't just do a certain work or good deed because other people are watching. Do it because that's the right thing to do. Work hard at your job, not just when people are watching. That if you're only working in that way, it doesn't really reflect well on how Christians live out their lives. We're meant to do everything for the Lord and live every part of us. That's our spiritual act of worship, is the way we live our lives. That means everything we do should be trying to reflect Him. And if we're not doing the best job we can at everything, we're not reflecting Him well. We're not showing what Christ is all about. And so be praying that God would open your eyes to ways that you can truly show who He is through your work ethic, through just the way you live out your faith in everything that you do.